Hey, Sir Alexei Mikhailovich, since we are in our expansion era and close to the Bering Sea, we need to export fish to make money to give more food to our Tsar troops. Hey, Persians and Ottomans, I would take a huge portion of land around the Black Sea so I can make money. No, you can't because I already colonized it. So I guess I have to go to war then. So they did for 145 years of fighting. So in 1803, Russia was in a war with Napoleon close to Moscow and he had 130,000 strong. So in 1804, Russia was at war with the Persian Empire. So the recap of the 1795 to 1796 war, the Tsar's attempt, Tsar Nicholas I, had planned to expand Russian influence in the Caspian Sea and Caucasus region to prevent its rival, the Ottoman Empire, from territorial gains in the region. So since my beloved country won the war, I am going to take this, and this whole thing that you have right here. The territories remained in Russian hands for 9 and 12 years, when respectively according to the Treaty of Rasht of 1732 and the Treaty of the Ganja of 1735, they were returned to Iran. Yes, hi, I am Tsar Nicholas I, and who are you? I am the new Persian King Faith Ali Shah Qajar, and I want the northmost reaches of my kingdom to be Georgia. But Tsar Paul I colonized it already. The war started on the 22nd of June 1804 and ended on the 24th of October 1813. Here are the rest of the generals, and the Russians had 48,000 troops and the Persians had 25,000 troops. In 1803, the newly appointed commander of Russian forces in the Caucasus, Positsionov, attacked Ganja and captured its citadel on the 15th of January 1804. Ganja's governor Javad Khan Qajar was killed and a large number of the inhabitants slaughtered. The Qajar ruler Faith Ali Shah saw the Russian threat to Armenia, Karabakh, and Azerbaijan not only as a source of instability on his northwestern frontier, but as a direct challenge to Qajar authority. The unequal forces, the Russians were unable to commit a large portion of their troops to the Caucasus region. Because Tsar Alexander I's attention was continually distracted by simultaneous wars with France, the Ottoman Empire, Sweden, and Great Britain. To modernize the Persian army, they went seeking help from French experts through the Franco-Persian alliance and then from British experts in order to address the tactical disparity between the forces. The outbreak of war. The war began when Russian commanders Ivan Gudovich and Positsionov attacked the Persian settlement of Ekimiadzin, the holiest town in Armenia. But during the invasion, they retreated to Yerevan due to a lack of troops. Russians held the advantage for the majority of the war, due to the superior troops and strategy. Russia's inability, however, to dedicate anything more than 10,000 troops to the campaign allowed the Persians to mount a fairly respectable resistance effort. The Persians, on the other hand, had even less troops but did not have a lot of cavalry. During this period, Russia was mainly dealing with the local khanates which were subject to Persia. Following the bloody capture of Ganja, the Khans could usually be bullied without too much fighting. In late 1803, Positsionov demanded to have the Ganja Khanate southwest of Georgia, over which Georgia had some nominal claims. He was no longer unifying Georgia or liberating Christians, but moving against territory that was traditionally seen as Muslim or Persian. In June, Sisyanov and 3,000 men marched south toward Ekimiadzin and Yerevan Khanate. They were driven back by Abbas Mirza and 18,000 Persians. The Russians then moved east and besieged Yerevan until around July or September. The local Khan held the citadel, the Russians held the town, and the Persians held the surrounding countryside. Weakened by disease and fighting on hot rations, the Russians withdrew to Georgia, losing more men along the way. The Russians then took over a part of Georgia, a town of Gyumri, and the Yerevan Khanate and the Shakite Khanate joined the Russians. So the Persians took the Asquan fortress southwest of Shusha, which is the capital of Karabakh. Many Russians sent Kyrgyzstan to take the castle of Shabulak, and Abba Murad gained control again. Kyrgyzstan slipped out at night and headed for Shusha. He was caught at the Askuran Gorge but not defeated. More Russian troops relieved the blockade of Kyrgyzstan and Shusha. Abbas Mirza made a wide swing north and besieged Ganja. On the 27th of July, 600 Russian infantry routed his camp at Shankir. Gudovich replaced Tsianov as viceroy. In December, Turkey declared war on Russia, and when the Russians sent some troops, the war resumed. In 1808, the Russians recaptured Ekmiadzin. In September 1808, Gudovich attacked Yerevan. The assault failed, withdrawal became necessary, and 1,000 men, mostly sick and wounded, froze to death on the retreat. Escape was only possible because Nabolushin and Lestinovich defeated a vast horde of Persians. Gudovich resigned and was replaced by Alexander Tormasov. In 1809, Faith Ali was driven back from Gyumri and Abbas Mirza from Ganja. In 1810, Abbas Mirza tried to invade Karabakh but was defeated at Megri on the Aras River. In early 1812, Persia invaded Karabakh. They occupied Shalabak Castle, which the Russians later recaptured. After a day of fighting, the Russians surrendered. Russia responded to this unusual defeat by moving Pyotr Kotlyarevsky, the hero of
Akalkalaki,
from the Turkish to the Persian front. In the summer of 1812, just as Napoleon was preparing to invade Russia, the Russians made peace with Turkey, and Russian troops in Caucasia turned to Persia. On the 19th of October, Kotlyarevsky ignored the cautious Radishev's orders, crossed the Aras River, and routed the Persians at the Battle of Aslandas. The Battle of Aslandas. The Battle of Aslandas took place from the 31st of October to the 1st of November 1812. Between the Russian Empire and Qajar Iran during the Russo-Persian War. The Persian commander Faith Ali Shah stationed his forces in Aslandas. Russian forces under the command of Major General Pyotr Kotlyarevsky launched a surprise night attack and routed the Persians, who were still sleeping. Pyotr Kotlyarevsky then quickly moved on to storm Lakran successfully in early 1813, which ended any Persian hope of continuing the war or settling on a stalemate for both parties. The Persians suffered heavy casualties numbering around 2,000 killed and 500 captured. The Russians lost 28 men and 99 wounded. Among these killed during the battle was Charles Christie, a British officer in the service of Iran. He then crossed the snow-covered Mukhan Plain and, after a 5-day siege, stormed the newly built fort of Lankaran. The Russians lost 1,000 men, 2/3 of their force. Of the 4,000 men Persian garrison, every survivor was bayoneted, which means to be stabbed, that is, in front of a gun, or with a short knife which looks like this. Pyotr Kotlyarevsky was found wounded among the heap of corpses. News of Napoleon's defeat reached Persia in the spring of 1813. Peace negotiations were already underway and an armistice was made in October. In the Treaty of Gulistan, Persia recognized Russian possession of all the khanates it held and gave up all pretensions to Dagestan and Georgia. Persia kept Megri in southwest Karabakh, which the Russians had abandoned as unhealthy and inaccessible from the rest of Karabakh. 13 years later, in another Russo-Persian war fought from 1826 to 1828, Persia tried to regain its territory. It was defeated and lost the Khanates of Yerevan and Nakhachivan, roughly corresponding to modern Armenia. I tried to make it 8 minutes or longer so I can get mid-roll ads, by the way.